haven't went through it with anybody.
Okay,
Actually,
you
we
didn't.
did 6 and 7 after we had done the first 10
Okay, but
columns.
wait. So you haven't gone through. We haven't. So when we do 8 and 9 officially, we have somebody read 8 and 9 with you
We have not
and
done that.
explain it. Okay. So hang tight. And um have you read 76 through 84 yet?
Yes, I have.
Okay, several
I've
times.
been
Okay, good.
reading it daily.
Okay.
Well, actually,
Who
it's been
else?
2 days.
Let me ask here. Who else, raise your hand, have not had somebody read 84 excuse me, 76 through 88. It doesn't count unless they read it with you and explain it to you. Who has not done that yet? Oh, Jason, so go ahead. Yeah. Oh, go ahead. Yeah, Naaman. Yeah, talk to me. What?
Yeah, Jason Alcoholic. Same thing as Ron. Did 6 and 7, and I've read the pages, but it's pretty much where I'm at.
Okay, and then Naaman, have you gone through has somebody taken you through 76 through 84
Not yet.
and
No,
read it with you?
didn't name an alcoholic.
Yeah.
No.
Okay, wait. Just a second here. Okay, Rebecca, has anybody read those pages with you?
No, I think the way we were doing it previously, or at least I was doing that, reading it on our own and sending you the email.
No, okay, so no, somebody needs
Yeah.
to read it to you.
No, I
Okay,
don't think any of us have done that.
we have a whole crap load of people here.
Yeah.
All right. So let's do it. Let's freaking do it right now. Put a link up, Matt, if you would, to pages 76 through 84. Everybody open your big book, page 76 through 84. Um, uh, it's a bit of a long read, but it's so important. Okay, so there's the link, 76 through 84. You can read about steps uh, eight, 8 and 9. Good, thank you for who put that up. Did Lisa put it up? Yes, Lisa put it up. Okay, 76. So let's read, Joe, you two, right? Nobody's
Mary,
done it with you.
Mary.
What's that?
Sorry.
So, okay, you guys that raised your hands, put your hands back up again. Okay, don't take them down. Will they stay up? And let's start reading it right now. Hey, so Jann Alcoholic, we're going to start on page 76. Now we need more action. Okay, so Jason, you want to start? Hey, you like the haircut? That's like the Nazi haircut from the
Oh, Jesus.
1930s, and then all the Wehrmacht had haircuts, especially the SS, and then now all the hipsters have picked up on that kind of haircut.
No, damn hipsters.
Okay, good.
All right, now we need more action, without which we find that faith without works is dead. Let's look at steps 8 and 9. We have a list of all persons we have harmed and to whom we are willing to make amends. We made it when we took inventory. We subjected ourselves to a drastic self-appraisal. Now we go out to our fellows and repair the damage done in the past. We attempt to sweep away the debris which has accumulated out of our effort to live on self-will and run the show ourselves. If we haven't the will to do this, we ask until it comes. Remember, it was agreed at the beginning we would go to any lengths for victory over alcohol. Probably there are still some misgivings. As we look over the list of business acquaintances and friends we have hurt, we may feel diffident about going to some of them on a spiritual basis. Let us be reassured. To some people, we need not and probably should not emphasize the spiritual feature on our first approach. You want to keep going?
Yeah, where are you?
That's one page.
Are you, okay, so, all right, good. So go ahead, Naaman, you want to pick it up from there?
Name an alcoholic. We might prejudice them. At the moment, we are trying to put our lives in order, but this is not an end in itself. Our real purpose is to fit ourselves to be of maximum service to God and the people about us. It is seldom wise to approach an individual who still smarts from our injustice to him and announce that we have gone religious. In the prize ring, this would be called leading with the chin. Why lay ourselves open to being branded fanatics or religious bores? We may kill a future opportunity to carry a beneficial message, but our man is sure to be impressed with a sincere desire to set right the wrong. He is going to be more interested in a demonstration of goodwill than in our talk of spiritual discoveries. We don't use this as an excuse for shying away from the subject of God. When it will serve any good purpose, we are willing to announce our convictions with tact and common sense. The question of how to approach the man we hated will arise. It may be he has done us more harm than we have done him, and though we may have acquired a better attitude toward him, we are still not too keen about admitting our faults. Nevertheless, with a person we dislike, we take the bit in our teeth. It is harder to go to an enemy than to a friend, but we find it much more beneficial to us. We go to him in a helpful and forgiving spirit, confessing our former ill feeling and expressing our regret. Under no condition do we criticize such a person or argue. Simply, we tell him that we will never get over drinking until we have done our utmost to straighten out the past. We are there to sweep off our side of the street, realizing that nothing worthwhile can be accomplished until we do so. Pass.
Never. Oh, just read to the end of the paragraph to unexpected happen. Where'd he go? There you go. Oh, you can't read because you're muted. Reading more is better than less here.
Okay, never trying to tell him what he should do. His faults are not discussed.
If our manner is calm, frank, and open, we will be gratified with the results. Okay, good. Aaron, you're up. Thank you.
Aaron, grateful alcoholic. In 9 cases out of 10, the unexpected happens. Sometimes the man we are calling upon admits his own fault. So feuds of years standing melt away in an hour. Rarely do we fail to make satisfactory progress. Our former enemies sometimes praise what we are doing and wish us well. Occasionally, they will offer assistance. It should not matter, however, if someone does throw us out of his office. We have made our demonstration, done our part. It's water over the dam. Most alcoholics owe money. We do not dodge our creditors. Telling them what we are trying to do, we make no bones about our drinking. They usually know it anyway, whether we think so or not. Nor are we afraid of disclosing our alcoholism on the theory it may cause financial harm. Approached in this way, the most ruthless creditor will sometimes surprise us. Arranging the best deal, we can let these people know that we are sorry. Our drinking has made us slow to pay. We must lose our fear of creditors, no matter how far we have to go, for we are liable to drink if we are afraid to face them. Perhaps we have committed a criminal offense which might land us in jail if it were known to the authorities. We may be short in our accounts and unable to make good. We have already admitted this in confidence to another person, but we are sure we would be imprisoned or lose our job if it were known. Maybe it is only a petty offense, such as padding the expense account.
Okay, stop right there. Stop right there. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about this, and then maybe Lisa, you can type this up as I say it. So a couple parts about this. It's seldom wise to approach an individual who still smarts from our injustice. And so in my case, I got sober. When I first got sober, I had a sponsor. We went through all the steps pretty quick, and I was willing to make amends to everybody that I needed to. So one person, I called my father on the phone, and I hadn't talked to him in a while, and I did this amends, told him that I was in AA, had quit drinking. Part of the program was to make these amends, and told him that, what I had done, and if there was anything that I could do to make things right with him, I was willing. Now, two things I didn't realize about my father at the time. He was drinking. Now, I hadn't seen him like in, I don't know, 5 or 6 years. I didn't know that he started drinking. So everything that he said to me came through a bottle. Now, check this out. I didn't know that my father had started drinking until about a year ago or a year and a half ago when my brother told me, our father was a major alcoholic and he drank all the time. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding, because I had never seen him drink. And this was news to me. So everything that came, and he started drinking sometime after I went to college and left and went on about my life. I'd never seen him drink. I had no idea, but he was drinking all the time. So when I made my amend, I'm making an amend to a person who's drunk, probably doesn't remember anything anyway, and it was poorly received. But I did my part. Some of you are going to run into that, right? The other thing is I had a sister I made amends to, and it was poorly received there. She was, it was received, and then, how things get unreceived? That was the case there. I had a brother I made amends to, and he was very good with it, except for one thing. He had quit drinking himself, and he had been to AA and all sorts of things. So he kind of knew what was going on. But sometimes we end up in these family situations that seem impossible. And you're like, oh, fuck me, what am I supposed to do here? I have a former wife, made amends to her. I must have made amends to her 7 or 8 times. Well, the problem was she was drinking, had been in and out of alcohol treatment centers, and I had a son that would tell me, he'd say, Mom doesn't remember you ever calling her or making an amend. She was drunk every time you called. And I'm like, oh, well, okay. So what are you supposed to do with that? You do the best you can. You pray for them. You put them in God's hands, and you try to move on. Do you keep going back in? No. If they're abusive, et cetera, do you go in for more abuse? Hell no. So that's certainly my experience there. Now, the other thing that I had was financial amends, and I was working, and so I called up, this is 1975. So it was before credit cards, it's before computers, it's before Venmo, it's before anything, before fax machines. Um, and I called up people that had done contract work for me, and I made a list, did this with a sponsor of everybody that I owed money to. And then I called them up and I said, look, I know I owe you $1,000. So, I'm working now and company's going good. Can I pay you $100 a week for the next 10 weeks? And so my friend Chaz, I called him up and I said, yeah, I'm joined AA and I'm sober now, and part of the program is making amends. And I know I owe you $1,000 for this work that you did. I'm really sorry. I was kind of just mostly drunk most of the time. And he's like, oh yeah, good. He said, oh, you're in AA. That's good. He said, I should probably join AA. Well, he certainly probably should have. He was a major alcoholic, but wasn't my business, and he wasn't going to quit drinking. But he was mostly interested in having his company get the money that they needed, and I'm going to pay him $100 a week. Jeff, I wrote him a check every week. So I was back in his good graces, and I had other people that I had to do that with a bunch. The other thing now, when we owe money, um, we can call the credit card companies, all of that, and we can make financial amends with them if we have any money. Now, if we don't have any money and we're broke, just forget about it. It's like we have a saying around here, which is pay yourself first. Make sure that you're eating, that um, you have food on the table, you're paying your rent, or your mortgage. You've got to take care of yourself. So sometimes people will get a little bit of money and they'll just run out crazily and try to pay every creditor. You can't do that if you're like, you know, they've just repossessed your car or something. You've got to take care of yourself first on that. And just check with me too. I'll help you out with that. Okay, so let's keep moving on. Who's the next person to read? Okay, go ahead, Ron. You want to pick it up from there? Hope that was helpful.
I'm Ron, I'm an alcoholic. Most of us have done that sort of thing. Maybe we are divorced and have remarried, but haven't kept up the alimony to number one. She is indignant about it and has worn out for our arrest. That's a common form of trouble too. Although these reparations take innumerable forms, there are some general principles which we find guiding, reminding ourselves that we have decided to go to any lengths to find a spiritual experience. We ask that we be given the strength and direction to do the right thing, no matter what the personal consequences may be. If we lose our position or reputation or face jail, but we are willing, we have to be. We must not shrink at anything. Usually, however, other people are involved. Therefore, we are not to be the hasty and foolish martyr who would needlessly sacrifice others to save himself from the alcoholic pit. A man we know had remarried because of resentment and drinking. He had not paid alimony to his first wife. She was furious. She went to court and got an order for his arrest. He had commenced our way of life, but had secured a position and was getting his head above water. It would have been impressive heroics if he had walked up to the judge and said, "Here I am." We thought he ought to be willing to do that if necessary, but if he were in jail, he could provide nothing for either family. We suggested he write his first wife, admitting his faults and asking forgiveness. He did, and also sent a small amount of money. He told her that he would try to do in the he told her what he would try to do in the future. He said he was perfectly willing to go to jail if she insisted. Of course, she did not, and the whole situation has long since been adjusted.
Where did you leave off here?
At the top of page 80.
Keep reading.
Before taking drastic action, which might implicate other people, we secure their consent. If we have obtained permission, have consulted with others, asked God to help, and the drastic step is indicated, we must not shrink. This brings to mind a story of one of our friends. While drinking, he accepted a sum of money from a bitterly hated business rival, giving him no receipt for it. He subsequently denied having received the money and used the incident as a basis for discrediting the man. He thus used his own wrongdoing as a means of destroying the reputation of another. In fact, his rival was ruined. He felt that he had done a wrong he could not possibly make right. If he opened that old affair, he was afraid it would destroy the reputation of his partner, disgrace his family, and take away his means of livelihood. What right had he to involve those dependent upon him? How could he possibly make a public statement exonerating his rival? After consulting with his wife and partner, he came to the conclusion that it was better to take those risks than to stand before his Creator guilty of such ruinous slander. He saw that he had to place the outcome in God's hands, or he would soon start drinking again, and all would be lost anyhow. He attended church for the first time in many years. After the sermon, he quietly got up and made an explanation His action met widespread approval, and today he's one of the most trusted citizens of all of his town. This all happened years ago.
Okay, stop right there. So another, Bill Wilson writes this. Bill Wilson was the co-founder of AA, and as I've said many times before, he was a Wall Streeter. He worked on Wall Street. He was essentially, they call him a stockbroker, but he really wasn't. He was an investment banker, and he did business deals with the likes of John J.D. Rockefeller. He was a heavy hitter. You know, he would be like, you know, he hobnobbed with the robber barons of the 1920s and 30s. So he writes this from a different kind of position that we are in. You know, I don't think anybody's going to stand up at a town meeting or a church and say what they've done. Um, Usually, you know, we're going to try to go to the person and, you know, this business about financially ruining other people. I mean, he's writing about high finance. I mean, I guess it happens. I don't know, maybe in certain neighborhoods where, you know, people are, there's all sorts of bad and nefarious things going on. Um, Mostly, we have most of us have simple debts that we need to get paid. Sometimes, you know, we'll have situations, we hear about it all the time, where there is a trust fund and all the money is spent in the trust fund, or somebody steals all the money in the trust fund, or they steal our money. What are we going to do with it? I mean, I had that situation myself. And my sister and her husband and my own father just cleaned me out when I was 21. By the time I got to AA at 28, um, I had to make a decision to let that go or kill myself drinking. It was so upsetting. So Rebecca, I would just get a bottle of whiskey and I'd start drinking over it. So I had a sponsor that said, well, you know, you could damn well nearly die over this. Do you want to do that? Or and you seem like a capable person. Why don't you just get a job and have your own life? Which is exactly what I did. You know, uh, made my own living, bought my own house, stayed the hell away from the bad people, and things worked itself out. The other thing too is sometimes people, you know, in these days will commit crimes that you best talk with some other people in AA about before you go to the judge or the courts and turn yourself in and say, well, I embezzled this money from this company I worked for, you know, because you're going to get convicted of a felony. And we had somebody in this group who was working for a company and was the accountant and took $300,000 from the company. And they actually got caught. And how they did it is beyond me. They did get convicted of a felony, but they had to pay the money back. And they had a bit of money, but she had to sell her house, her car, everything, her horses, and she avoided going to prison. But I mean, there's all kinds of things that happen. I just hate to see people go to prison. I'd rather see people pay back what it is that you took if you did take anything. But oftentimes it's not. We are victims of you know, we're victims of nefarious behavior by others. Sometimes we make really big mistakes ourselves. There is a way to work this out, but I wanted to point out that Bill was a high flyer. So he was like, I mean, he downplays it a lot, but you know, he was like the Elon Musk of his day in some ways. All right. Well, who wants to, you want to start, keep reading there, Rebecca? Over to you. You have to unmute.
Hi, Rebecca Alcoholic. The chances are that we have domestic troubles. Perhaps we are mixed up with women in a fashion we wouldn't care to have advertised. We doubt if, in this respect, alcoholics are fundamentally much worse than other people. But drinking does complicate sex relations in the home. After a few years with an alcoholic, a wife gets worn out, resentful, and uncommunicative. How could she be anything else? The husband begins to feel lonely, sorry for himself. He commences to look around in the nightclubs or their equivalent for something besides liquor. Perhaps he's having a secret and exciting affair with, quote, the girl who understands, unquote. In fairness, we must say that she may understand, but what are we going to do about a thing like that? A man so involved often feels very remorseful at times, especially if he is married to a loyal and courageous girl who has literally gone through hell with him, for him. Whatever the situations, we usually have to do something about it. If we are sure our wife does not know, should we tell her? Not always. We think if she knows in a general way that we have been wild, should we tell her in detail? Undoubtedly, we should admit our fault. She may insist on knowing all the particulars. She will want to know who the woman is, where she is. We feel we ought to say to her that we have no right to involve another person. We are sorry for what we have done, and God willing, it shall not be repeated. More than that, we cannot do. We have no right to go further. Though there may be justifiable exceptions, and though we wish to lay down no rule of any sort, we have often found that this is the best course to take. Our design for living is not a one-way street. It is as good for the wife as for the husband. If we can forget, so can she. It is better, however, that one does not needlessly name a person upon whom we can vent jealousy. Perhaps there are some cases where the utmost frankness is demanded. No outsider can appraise such an intimate situation. It may be that both will decide that the way of good sense and loving kindness is to let bygones be bygones. Each might pray about it, having the other one's happiness uppermost in mind. Keep it always in sight that we are dealing with that most terrible human emotion, jealousy. Good generalship may decide that the problem he attacked on the flank rather than risk a face-to-face combat. If we have no such complication, there's plenty we should do at home. Sometimes we hear an alcoholic say that the only thing we need to do is to keep sober. Certainly we must keep sober, for there will be no home if he doesn't. But he is yet a long way from making good to the wife or parents, whom for years he has so shockingly treated. Passing all understanding is the patience mothers and wives have had with alcoholics. Had this not been so, many of us would have no homes today, would perhaps be dead. The alcoholic is like a tornado, roaring his way through the lives of others. Hearts are broken. Sweet relationships are dead. Affections have been uprooted. Selfish and inconsiderate habits have kept the home in turmoil. We feel a man is unthinking when he says that sobriety is enough. He is like the farmer who came up out of his cyclone cellar to find his home ruined. To his wife, he remarked, "Don't see anything the matter here? Ma, ain't it grand? The wind stopped blowing."
Okay, you can stop there. So now this book was published in 1939. The Dust Bowl in America was going between 37 and 39, and Bill Wilson is referencing the Dust Bowl, which blew across Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, Nebraska, and here in Colorado, and destroyed all the farmland. There was a complete act of how to preserve the soil. But you can go look up the Dust Bowl series on PBS. It's very dramatic and it killed a lot of people. Over to you, Joe.
Yes, hi, I'm Joe. I'm an alcoholic. Yes, there is a long period of reconstruction ahead. We must take the lead. A remorseful mumbling that we are sorry won't fill the bill at all. We ought to sit down with the family and frankly analyze the past as we now see it, being very careful not to criticize them. Sorry. Their defects may be glaring, but the chances are that our own actions are partly responsible. So we clean house with the family, asking each morning in meditation that our Creator show us the way of patience, tolerance, kindliness, and love. The spiritual life is not a theory. We have to live it. Unless one's family expresses a desire to live upon spiritual principles, we think we ought not to urge them. We should not talk incessantly to them about spiritual matters. They will change in time. Our behavior will convince them more than our words. We must remember that 10 or 20 years of drunkenness would make a skeptic out of anyone. There may be some wrongs we can never fully right. We don't worry about them if we can honestly say to ourselves that we would right them if we could. Some people cannot be seen. We send them an honest letter. And there may be a valid reason for postponement in some cases, but don't delay it if it can be avoided. We should be sensible, tactful, considerate, and humble without being servile or scraping. As God's people, we stand on our feet. We don't crawl before anyone. If we are painstaking about this phase of our development, we will be amazed before we are halfway through. We are going to know a new freedom and a new happiness.
Stop right there for a second. Okay. Okay, so now these are the promises that come after doing the AA 8th and 9th step. And I'm going to read these. Thanks for reading. So if we are painstaking about this phase of our development, doing 8 and 9, we're amazed before we're halfway through. We are going to know a new freedom and a new happiness. That's 2. We will not regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it. We will comprehend the word serenity. We will know peace. No matter how far down the scale we have gone, we will see how our experience can benefit others. That feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. We will lose interest in selfish things, gain interest in our fellows. Self-seeking will slip away. Our whole attitude and outlook upon life will change. Fear of people in economic insecurity will leave us. Can you believe that? That's it. All of this has happened to me. We will intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us. We will suddenly realize that God is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves. And that seems to be what happens. Terry was talking about that yesterday a little bit. God seems to flow right in and take over. Are these extravagant promises? We think not. They are being fulfilled among us, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. They will always materialize if we work for them. So that's the ending part of steps 8 and 9. It took quite a while. I hate to tell you this. I kind of fucked around in here, and it took a long time for this stuff to completely develop. And then once it did, it totally developed, and I felt I was free. I was free of all of it. All of it came true. Jeff, how about you? How long did it take the promises to come true for you?
Jeff, alcoholic. It took a while because it took a while for me to see some of the problems that some things that needed to be done. Some of the the damage I had done, and it took a while. The bodies kept floating to the surface, but it took a while. And I remember looking at this when I thought fear of people and economic insecurity will leave us. I thought, I'm not afraid of people. I deal with them every day, but I was afraid of people. I realized that. It took a while for me to understand that. Economic insecurity, I always paid my bills. I was excellent credit. I was just, why? Because I was afraid not to have money to drink. That was my insecurity. that I be, God forbid, be without money to drink because I must drink. So it's just this whole thing. It's a process, Jan. I thank you for tonight. Yeah.
You're welcome. The other thing too is I learned this really when I started attending adult children of alcoholics, and there were a lot of women in there, and they were, I mean, mostly women in ACA. And one of the things that we find with women in AA, it's a different experience. Men have a certain experience, of being, head of the household, male alcoholics, violent, crazy bullshit. Women have a tendency to be victims of men in other situations and alcoholism. And so how do you do, oftentimes people will say, well, I don't really feel like, I didn't really do anything. In fact, things were done to me. So what we do there is we say, okay, you were present for this perpetration. The idea with the ninth step is we may list the people who have harmed us, and then you say, well, now I have to forgive this person? Hell no. Well, what you do is you give up the perpetration, the crime to you. You give that to God. So forgiveness is the definition, giving over the resentment to your higher power with the hope and prayer that your higher power can dissolve it and take it away from you. Because it's impossible to walk around having constant pain over, what happened in the past. We have to give it. That's kind of why this is a spiritual program. It seems to get this to process out. That was certainly my experience. I mean, I think I was a good 20, 30, I'm telling you, I was slow, 30 years or more before I was able to give up all of this. It took quite a bit of time, and I had to come to the realization. So there's many ways to skin a cat in that this is Cat Friday. And, this is not, we're not always going to take Bill Wilson's word for it. There's this can kind of work for anybody. Okay, who has comments on this? Just raise your hand and we'll hear from you. Got a few minutes left here. Somebody has a comment on this, I know it, especially those of you who read. Yep, go ahead, Lori, you're up.
I'm not on this step yet, but today I'm kind of asking.
Wait, I thought you were on this step.
Well, we didn't read 6 and 7.
Okay, we will. You're on this step.
Okay. Anyway, the number one resentment, the person that I had the number one resentment came over here today and made amends to me.
Was he in AA? She?
No, he's not. He doesn't drink.
Oh, yeah.
Came over.
There you go. Perfect.
And so
That's what we want to hear. Let's go to Jason. We're short on time, so we're going to keep it short.
Yeah. How long does it normally take to do this? I feel like it's gonna be hard. It's gonna take a little while.
This is a piece of cake.
Okay.
Don't worry about it.
Okay.
All right. It'll get done piece by piece. Joe, do you have your hand up for this, or did you just leave it up? Here, I'll tell you what. I'll lower your hand. You can re-raise it. It's a piece of cake. Rebecca, I know you're thinking something. What? I could feel it.
Actually, I'm just taking this in right now.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
All right. Yeah. How about you, Ron?
I'm Ron, I'm alcoholic. Yeah, I was thinking about my ex-wife. I mean, I know I harmed her, but I don't think, well, We've been divorced about a year and a half. Hey, she's moved on. She don't want to hear from me.
Well, for right now, you can just pray for her every day, put her in God's hands, and ask
Okay.
God to take care of her. Yeah, Jeff's shaking his head. Yes. All right. Lisa, how about you? Anything here?
Um, no, this kind of goes along with that resentment prayer I was reading all the time, where all of a sudden it kicked in and I stopped reading it and things started making changes for me. So
Okay. No, this is good. Glad. All right, you want to read the promises?
sure,
Okay.
let me switch gears here. Sorry, I lost. Okay, the promises. And this is starting with the last paragraph on page 83, chapter 6, into action in the AA Big Book. If we are painstaking about this phase of our development, we will be amazed before we are halfway through. We are going to know a new freedom and a new happiness. We will not regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it. We will comprehend the word serenity and we will know peace. No matter how far down the scale we have gone, we will see how our experience can benefit others. That feeling of uselessness and self-pity would disappear. We will lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in our fellows. Self-seeking will slip away. Our whole attitude and outlook on life will change. Fear of people and economic insecurity will leave us. We will intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us. We will suddenly realize that God is doing for us what we cannot do for ourselves. Are these extravagant promises? We think not. They are being fulfilled among us. Sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. They will always materialize if we work for them.
Thank you. Oh, well, we read it twice.
Right.
Okay. Uh, yeah. All right, here comes the serenity prayer. Goes like this. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. This meeting is officially over. If anybody has any questions about AA or this meeting, you can ask away. I've allowed you to unmute. If anybody has anything, I know where's hey, oh, there's Megan. Hey, Megan, how are you? You're working on day one. How'd you like today's meeting?
Oh, I enjoyed it. This is my third meeting today.
Where are you calling? Where are you calling from today?
Colorado.
Oh, okay, good. Um, yeah, and you're working on day one. You've been to this meeting before?
I probably have.
Yeah.
I started